The message kind of changed while I was doing worship, so hopefully that's a good thing. So this is going to be the prologue to the message. So everything I'm going to say tonight is in light of what I'm about to say and in like the context of what I'm about to say. That's what a prologue in a book is. This is the prologue. I know. So when you read a book, so there's these things. And then the beginning of it tells you how the whole book is going to go, at least in theme. So Zach, if you can put up the picture. So this photo is called the Pale Blue Dot. It is made famous by Charles Sagan, who is a atheist astronomer. This is his quote. Well, it's going to betray me. All right. Look again at this dot. That's here. That's home for us. The Earth is a very small stage in a very cosmic arena. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceit than in a distant image of our tiny world, our posterity, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have privileged position in the universe are challenged by this pale blue dot. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. So he looked at that thing and said how not important we are. Now, this image really spoke to me. So we're on that dot right now. This blew my mind. I was an adult, sadly, when I realized this. So, you see all the photos of of like our galaxy, and they're always 2D, like the sun's in the middle, and all the planets, they're all circling, and it's all flat. And then it wasn't until I was an adult that I saw like a video of it that we're actually, shooting through space, and we're all just like trailing behind the sun, doing this super cool thing in this like very dangerous universe, and we just continue to not be killed by some foreign rock. That's how important you are to God. So Carl Sagan saw this photo and talked about how like essentially unimportant we are, which I guess is true, but that means that God saw that and said, well, I love them so much, I'm going to send my son to die for them, that they are that important, that all of existence takes place in this thing. This is from the Voyager. This is like one of the first photos it sent back, a little space history. So that's the prologue, is we're important to God. Not because of anything we've done, but because he loves us so much. And all of the facts actually show how unimportant we are. But turns out God doesn't care about facts. He cares about us. I know! Isn't that beautiful? Just like I care about y'all, no matter what the facts say. Okay, so part of the introductory, though, is these are also the things that are going to be the running theme, is God is always speaking. You can hear his voice, and you are qualified to hear what he says. So we are going to start in Exodus 3:2-5. Yes. Yeah. Okay. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in the flames and the fire. From within the bush, Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought, I'll go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up. When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, Moses, Moses. Moses said, here I am. And then God said, do not come closer. So I didn't need verse 5. But so verse 2-4 is really the thing of it. So this really stood out to me. I'm reading the Bible throughout the year, and I started late, so I'm just going to end my Bible reading in like October. But I'd never seen this. So the bush was on fire, and it'd been on fire. And then finally, when God saw that Moses had saw him, then he started speaking. So God was already there. The bush was already on fire, and presumably the bush would have just stayed on fire, and Moses would have wandered around, and God would have never spoken to him. So it was only when Moses took his attention on God that he was able to hear from God. So God was already speaking. God was already there in presence, in his glory. And it took Moses noticing to actually interact with God. So, and this is part of the direction that I thought was really cool, that I hadn't thought of before. So, pale blue dot. God loves us. We're important to God no matter what. So there is this you should be in the will of God. You should follow what he says. You should do what he says to do. Now we see throughout all of Scripture that God speaks to people that are absolutely not in his will and are not doing the right thing. Moses being one of these people. So the whole reason why Moses is in this desert is because he killed an Egyptian, he got out of God's will, he did it early, and then he ran away from Egypt so he wouldn't be convicted of murder. So Moses is just wandering around in the desert. Now he's tending his father-in-law's sheep, he's gotten married, he's moved through life, as y'all will move through life, because that's just kind of the passage of time. As you see when you get older, the older people in the room may be able to testify this, you will meet people that are still 17 even though they're 40. You will. They're out there. Be careful, you might end up one of them. And how you don't end up one of them, sometimes it's fun. Side tangent, there's a whole little story within the story of Peter Pan. So the Lost Boys are really cool and fun, and Peter Pan is this kind of demon sprite. Really, in reality, it's well, okay, that's, so he takes people to an island. He takes little kids to an island and then, plays. But, side point, but the people that are actually evil are the adults in the story that refuse to grow up. So if you stay in Neverland long enough as a lost boy, you become a pirate. And become evil and bitter and all that stuff. That's what these people become. Nick knows. He's met them. I've met them. You've met them. You just don't worry. You'll meet them. Hopefully you won't be one. This is how you don't be one. You don't wander around in the desert moving through life in a slow thing and not look at God. God, there could be burning bushes all around your life, and if you don't pay attention to them, you will just wander in the desert out of God's will, never moving forward, just getting older. That was not in my notes at all. Maybe one of y'all needs to hear that. It's super cool. So the reverence, just like Lauren was talking about, I love this. I was I do hear from God. This is so great. Lauren was up here talking about the reverence side of tithes and offerings. That's what I'm talking about with the pale blue dot, with looking and gazing at God. That's how you get, I know this can be perceived as simple. Look to God and he will speak. He's already speaking to you. Don't be prideful. You don't have it together. You will never have it together. God has it together. That's how you, when it's, Robert preached this months ago at this point, but in Matthew 6:32, seek you first the kingdom of God. It's a super simple plan of life. Do what he says, follow this thing, and then all of these things will be added unto you. Think of it as like a chain or a rope. If I were to try to line all my life up on my own merit, it's still squiggly in line. But if I just pull it, it's all straight. It's all working together. That's how you have a good, happy life. Follow God. That's what I meant. The bush was already burning. Finally, Moses finally noticed it. That's when he started speaking with God. God was already speaking to him. God is speaking to you constantly. The question is, are you paying attention? I won't do that. That's not important. All right. Going into, you can hear his voice. That's what I was touching on a little bit. Moses was not in God's will. Moses was wandering around in the desert, bebopping around through life. And God still had a plan for him, still wanted to use him. Pulled him out of the desert and put him back on track. This is saying you can hear his voice. Don't pull it up, Zach. But in Exodus 4:10-16, Moses talks about how he's not qualified. Send Aaron with him so he can speak for him. The important part that I want to note that out of this whole thing is God says, because there's an important part that I do. I didn't write it down. That's fine. In Exodus, God says, all right, you will be as God to Aaron. I will be God to you, but you will be God to Aaron. So this is talking about more on the seeking God. You have to have a personal relationship. Just because I have a personal relationship, just because Robert, who we all love, Nomad, who's the best? Just because Noah has a personal relationship with God doesn't count anything for you. You will be led astray if you allow someone else to have a relationship with God and you just by proxy. Your parents, no matter how wonderful they may be and how much they pursue God, you have to have a relationship by yourself. We'll see later that becomes a problem for Aaron, that he does not have a direct relationship with God. So this is more scriptures that you can hear from him. Romans 8:14, for all who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God. Hearing God is a sign that you belong to him. You already are qualified. You do hear. Who feels like they have heard from God? Any time in their life. See, many of y'all already know this. You don't even need me. So I have a story that I was going to share later. I don't know if I've ever. Maybe it's a sad story. I've never shared this story in public. So there used to be this thing called phones that you'd have to answer and just talk to a person. There was no FaceTime. You didn't text them. You just had to boringly. I know it was super sad. So this thing actually goes to your ear. You can't see anyone's face. You have to just assume that they're there. Typically, there's a name or a number. So that used to really bother me when I would call people and they would not answer. It really hurt me in a way that it never should have. And it matters so much to me. And guess who never answers the phone when I call her? My wife. I have been like, why do I even pay for your phone bill? You don't need it. You don't answer your phone. But for as long as I live, I will remember this. This is one of the things I can hang my hat on that goes, no, I know that I chose the right God, that Jesus is real, because I was walking. I used to own a Jeep Wrangler with a soft top. That was super cool. As you can tell. Yes, thank you. I was walking and I was praying and I heard from inside of me, I will always answer the phone when you call, Miller. And I was like, I love you so much, God, because it meant so much to me that you answer when I call. If I ever call you, please answer. I will be sad. Just know I will be sad. I actually have gotten better. I've grown. God will always answer when you call. Just because he told me, he's no respecter of person. He said he'll always answer when I call. He'll always answer when you call. When in the dead of night, in the bed, when you're laying there counting the ceiling tiles or your popcorn ceiling or whatever your ceiling looks like, God is there in the midst. He is mostly there in the midst when you're not only in the hilltop, but the valley, in all parts of your life. When you're sad, when you're happy, cry out to him. Look to the burning bush. He'll be there. He loves you. He wants to be in your life. He wants to lead you out of the desert and into these great things that he has for you. And you are qualified no matter what you are doing, no matter what you have done, no matter what you're actively sinning and doing. God still loves you and wants to get you back on track. That's why it said, John 10:17, my sheep hear my voice and they know, they follow me. But Jesus didn't say some sheep, all sheep. I assume everyone is saved in here. You count. You are not spiritually deaf. You are designed to hear God. People talk about the God-shaped hole in your heart. Y'all have it filled. Your hearts, your ears are tuned to hear of the spiritual things. That's the thing I wanted to talk about. Going back to the prologue, blue dot, all this stuff. God created an entire universe and still went out of his way to speak to you about who you should date and marry. How silly is that? There's a universe that's spinning around. We found a possible star that drops in solar energy by 20% intermittently. That's a crazy number. Yeah, so there's this sun, alpha something, way out in the just way. We found it, so ever now and then, it drops by 20% of solar energy that comes out. I don't know why I'm talking. I read a lot about space now that I'm actually talking to y'all. I'm real cool, I promise, once again. I own a Jeep. Sometimes this star drops by 20%. To put that in reference, when Jupiter, the biggest planet that we have in our solar system, when it passes between us and the sun's solar energy drops by less than 1%. So whatever is out there drops a whole star by 20%. So it's standing reason, it's 20% bigger than Jupiter. So whatever that is enormous. Some people think it might be this energy engine that's wrapped around the sun by another civilization. But that's just speculation. So, but they can be real. They can be out here harvesting the energy of a sun, and God still cares about you enough to know and to help you on a history test. That's how much he loves you. And yeah, your problems are pretty insignificant, except they're not to God. They do care about you. They're like, Annalise, I want you to have a good life. I don't want you to end up the way Eli said that you're gonna, said the vibe that you give off. He wants you to have a good, loving husband that wants a great life for you. Also, I'm keeping the solar system in order. So, you're that important. You're that important. Talking about God, I'm not trying to talk. This is not like a salvation message. It just is kind of coming up. So the one thing that God only had one of, Jesus, he gave for you. Think about that. So in economics, the price paid is what determines something's worth. If I think of Eli, I use it as Joe Bush. Okay, if I think an iPhone is only worth $5 and you're willing to sell me an iPhone for $5, guess what an iPhone's worth? $5. Boom. If I'm willing to pay $1,000, guess what it's worth? $1,000. Guess what you were worth? Yeah, you did it. That's how much. So a God that had infinite of everything. So we only have I didn't know. I knew I was about space. We only have a finite amount of plutonium on this planet. Plutonium's a metal that we use in rockets and cool stuff. There are asteroids that have more plutonium than our entire planet. God owns all the asteroids, and it's like one of the most precious metals we have. Way more than gold. It is like this very finite. We actually know and have measured how much we just have on the planet. We got to go find it. It's pretty wild. God has infinite plutonium, but he only had one Jesus, and he gave it for you, Jennifer. He gave him for you. I know. Jeremiah. So God will answer when you call. Jeremiah 33:3. Call me and I will answer you. I will tell you the great and hidden things that you have not known. Go in again, run in the universe, but still hey, Sophie, you're the best. Here's some advice. Got to get back to maybe another civilization that can harvest the sun's energy. Look it up. It's real. Well, they measured it. I don't know if it's real. God spoke to you. You can hear him, but are you qualified to obey? We've already touched on this. You are qualified. I'm just going to tell you how you're qualified. Spoiler, it's Jesus. So, I know, right? Look at this. Christianity. 1 Peter 1:15-16. But he who called you holy, as you are also holy in all your conduct, since it is written, you shall be holy, for I am holy. The covenant that was made in the Old Testament was between God and man. So someone was able to break the deal. It was man that broke the deal. In Hebrews, it says that God and Jesus made the covenant together about us. Neither one of those partners can break the deal of how great and holy they are. So Jesus stood in the gap for us, and we are holy as he is holy. Pretty cool. Not because of your greatness, not because of how good you do, how well you obey, how good you do, whatever that thing is that you draw value from or get to hang over other people's heads because you did this and they didn't. Now I'm better than you. I saw the sisters looking at each other. I get it. It doesn't matter. Jesus is the equalizer. Jesus said both of you are good. Ephesians 2:8-9. For it is by grace you have been saved through faith. This is not from yourself. It is a gift from God, not by works, so that no man can boast. Yes, do good things. Do righteous acts. but it is not based on salvation. You can still hear from God. I want to speak on this. This is the bow that you go, I don't know. I do a lot of bad stuff. I did bad stuff this afternoon. There's no way I can hear from God. That is not true. Moses was wandering around the desert, never convicted for murder, and all those things. And there's a whole list of people that do terrible things that hear from God. You can too. None of y'all have murdered anyone in this room. At the very least, you haven't done that. So you can hear from God. I know I've repeated myself a lot, but I wanted to get this to you. Matthew 5:48, ye therefore shall be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Now I know everyone's going, I'm not perfect, but, and it's like this disclaimer. Turns out the Bible actually says you are perfect. Now that is not the current like Disney princess model of you are perfect, just discover the perfectness that is within you. That's not true. You're actually pretty terrible on the inside. But God made you perfect. Don't worry. God made you perfect. Don't worry. You're like Cinderella. You might be a pumpkin, but don't worry. You'll turn into a princess. Yeah. That's what it is. It's about tangent, but what? Yes.
How does a pumpkin turn into a princess? What did that happen?
It was always a pumpkin. No, because she was a maid, got the princess outfit. Then at midnight, it turned into a pumpkin. But then she became a princess. She didn't turn into a pumpkin. The carriage turned into a pumpkin. I don't know my Cinderella lore. I'm sorry. Whatever.
It's okay. You're forgiven. You have all these characters.
She gets it. You're not already perfect from within you, but you can change. You have changed. You have traded in your identity for Jesus' identity. That's what makes you perfect. You are currently perfect in him, not in your current state, but driving towards that. You can do it. And on the way, you'll hear from God. Just keep asking. Keep looking for those burning bushes. You'll see them. They'll be there. And then you'll get through the directive of God. Moses got his entire life trajectory. He knew that he was going to be Prince of Egypt totally led me astray, which is all I can think of when I read the Exodus story is the cartoon. It makes it appear that Moses didn't know what was up, but in Exodus it talks about his mother nursed him because she became his wet nurse in the palace and then was like, hey, you're going to be the deliverer. So this mug knew he was going to be the deliverer forever, but he didn't know how. And that burning bush set him on the correct path. Just keep looking at burning bushes. They will talk to you. This is the warning of when you offload the relationship aspect of this, because that's what this is all about. It's about a relationship with Jesus. Going back to Aaron, how God was God to Moses, but Moses was God to Aaron. So when Moses wasn't around, went up on the mountain. So imagine this. The mountain is on fire, smoke, obviously God, giving the 10 Commandments, all this stuff. Moses leaves and Aaron's like, I don't know what to do. Let's make an idol, boys. Because he didn't have a relationship with God. He had a relationship with Moses. Moses was gone. God will never leave you. Stay on track. Don't wander around the desert and get old. Follow God.